Shava, you are one of the most fascinating people I've met in a long time. You came from Jamaica to medical school in Kearney to being a corrections officer in Lincoln to opening a Jamaican food truck in Omaha.
Yes.
That is like an amazing story.
Thank you.
Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and about 7.5 years ago, my wife and I got married, and we took our honeymoon to Jamaica, and that was when I discovered jerk chicken, and it is just one of the most delicious dishes, one of my favorite things to eat, and I had it probably like 3 or 4 times on there, and then we came back. And I've been chasing that flavor ever since, and I haven't quite been able to find it. There are a couple spots in Omaha that serve it that are good, but it wasn't ever quite on that level. And then I heard about this food truck, this Jerk Makin Shack, that was supposed to have the lights out jerk chicken, and I visited, and I was just like, yes, this is it. This is it. I finally found it. And then I was like, I got to meet the people who are making this.
Yes.
So this is the owner of Jerk Makin Shack, Shava.
Yes.
Shava Jackson. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Welcome to Restaurant Hoppen.
Thank you. And I'm excited to be here. Yes.
So just to give kind of an overview, how do you define Jamaican food to someone who hasn't experienced it yet?
So Jamaican food for me, it brings me home, especially here in America. I would say when I lived there or growing up there, I would eat it and not really realize how much meaningful and how much of my culture that the food embraced until I came here to study, and then I couldn't find that taste anymore anywhere, basically, because when I came, it wasn't Omaha, it was Kearney, Nebraska. I went to UNK to study, and when I tell you I couldn't find my food anywhere, I missed it so much. It even made studying harder, it made socializing harder, it made going out. That's when you know how much food affects your daily life. And all the food I could find was just, whenever I had the flavor, they were good. It was just something that I was missing. Jamaican food for me, it takes me back to the ocean. It takes me back to, playing in the backyard with my cousins. It takes me to the river whenever I would go to like a waterfall. It takes me to like that early morning air when you hear the rooster crow. Like it's so much vibrant flavors. That's all you think about when you taste it because of how much spices and herbs and all the seasoning and flavors that we put in it. So it really is very earthy, and it really reminds you of home.
This is the type of person you want making your food. She's that passionate. Oh my gosh. I think you went back to Jamaica like briefly in that answer. That was
really
amazing.
Did.
So, I mean, talk to me about that. When you first get to Kearney and you're these foods that you've had your whole life, all of a sudden you can't have them, and you said it's affecting your relationships, it's affecting how you study. Like, what were those emotions like?
Yes, so for me, it was more like if I had a busy week or I had to study for an exam, there are times when, I wanted to eat food. Like if it was a slow week, yes, I could easily go in my kitchen, I could make this food for myself. But put a pause in that. I stayed on campus. So that first year, the university doesn't let you move off campus. So having access to a kitchen wasn't as easy. So most of the times when I ate, it would be fast food. And that made it even more complicated because what I wanted to eat, I would have to cook. So the second year when I got to move off campus, that was exciting because then I had access to a kitchen. But then what I found was when I'm super busy, I couldn't necessarily get into the kitchen. So that made life difficult for me because like I said, I had, a taste for something, when they call it like comfort food, when you have a hard week, whether it be with your grades, whether it would be with a professor, with your friends, and you just want to sit on the couch, watch some TV and eat something great. One, you don't have mom there to cook for you, or two, you just don't want to go in the kitchen. You just don't have the energy. So I would at that time would love to have like a restaurant or somewhere where I could go, or just have something DoorDash to me, but I could never find that. So I think that in of a sense kind of like broke my heart too, because then I had to resort to something that I didn't necessarily want to eat. So I would have to have a burger or a pizza. It filled me up, but it didn't necessarily give me the comfort that I was looking for.
It filled you physically,
Physically.
but spiritually,
Yes.
you were still drained.
Yes. Yes, and that happened for most of my college experience. And during that time, I was a pre-med student, on my way to get my master's for medical school. But I don't know, there was something missing in my spirit, and it was just being away from home, not being able to have access to all the things that I'm used to, and then finding out that Nebraska is like, there are winter months where it snows, and I'm not used to that. And then two, also finding out that there is no beach. I did not know that. So, even if there wasn't the food and, on my weekends, me and my friends could go to the beach because that's what I did in Jamaica, I didn't have that either. So there were so many things taken away from me that made the process, like the experience, a little bit harder. So I started looking into food and nutrition while I was in college. I did it a little bit home because most of my family, they're in the restaurant business. My uncle is a chef. One of my aunts is a chef. My mom used to be a chef. So I just kind of said, let me start doing some food and nutrition, some culinary. So I started doing that in college. And I found a love for cooking. Like, even though I was, in the lab, I was studying chemistry, biology, gross anatomy, I just kind of wasn't in love with medicine anymore. I started falling in love with food, and I think that's where my love and my passion for wanting to start a restaurant or food truck started, was during that time of my life. But I didn't tell my parents yet.
So wait, let's back up a little bit. You grew up in Jamaica,
Yes.
and then you end up at the University of Nebraska, Kearney.
Yes.
How?
Because when you go to, at least for my high school, you have what we call lower six and upper six after you finish 10th grade or 11th grade. And then what you do, you go to upper six and you do an associate degree. But during your final year, they have a college fair. And various colleges would come to your university and they set up little booths and they tell you about their university. UNK happened to be there at that time. There was no UNL or UNO, so I didn't know about them. So when I came here, I know a lot of people ask, what was I doing in Kearney? But I had no idea there was a UNL or a UNO. But I did love UNK. I got accepted to several universities, one in New York, one in Louisiana, St. Leo in Florida. But at the time, UNK was the most affordable and offered me the best scholarship. That is why I essentially came to Kearney. Like I said, the tuition was great. And then I still got to do my medical program. So that's why I ended up coming to Kearney.
And now, I mean, when you think about it, like that, your bucket was so drained because you couldn't have that food that you wanted, and
Yes.
now you're the one who's giving that to other people. I mean, I
Yes.
can't imagine how many responses you've gotten that have been very similar to mine. That it's like, I've been looking for great jerk chicken. I've been
Yes.
looking for oxtails. I've been looking for beef patties, and I just can't find this food.
Yes.
What has the response been the last couple weeks?
I cannot tell you, just like you said, like it's been overwhelming. When I initially started it, I was thinking, maybe I'm not going to have a lot of customers, because the food here isn't very popular. So I'm thinking, maybe I'm not going to have great turnout. There aren't too many Jamaicans here. There aren't too many people from the Caribbean. And quite frankly, when I was in college, the few Caribbean friends that I had, they actually left Kearney, because I did meet a few Jamaicans, Bahamians from the Caribbean there. And as soon as their undergrad year was over, they left, or some even left before and went to like Florida, Tampa, went to other universities just because they were experiencing what I was experiencing. But I stuck it through. So I'm, here thinking I'm going to start a restaurant, real nervous. I'm like, oh my God, not enough people know about this food. And then the name Jerk. it's associated. It's a pun. It's associated with like other different meanings. So just to call my food truck Jerk Makin Shack, I'm like, okay, what are people gonna think? Are they gonna understand what I'm saying, the concept? But once I open it, can I tell you, I have met over. I haven't met more than, on one hand, 5 Jamaicans since I've been in Omaha. And since I've opened my food truck, I have met over 40 something Jamaicans
Oh,
that I didn't know
wow.
were here, that I had no idea was here. And every time I meet one and they come up to my truck and they start speaking our language, which is Patois, I am blown away. I'm like, wait, are you Jamaican? And so this whole new family, this atmosphere of the Caribbean is starting to open up to me again because I didn't know they were here. And they also said they didn't know I was here. So I think it's apart from just, the American citizens or Omaha people, I'm also meeting my people. So that's making me really happy. And then the plus is that I'm finding out that there's so many people from Omaha that has gone to Jamaica. And I did not know that either. I would just pass people on a day-to-day basis, having no idea that they have traveled to my country at some point in time. Met some that has gone back every single year. Met some who their family even live there now as we speak. So that, I feel like I've opened up a restaurant, but it also gives people to access to something that they were missing, like you said, that they can come to my food truck and have. They don't have to necessarily wait to take a trip to Jamaica just to get that experience.
You can get like a nice little half-hour trip to Jamaica as you're just chowing down on some jerk chicken.
Yes.
Or jerk pork. I'm going to pause real quick in the story because I want to let people know if somebody's watching this and they're just like, I've been looking for that type of food. Where is it? You have a bright green and yellow food truck.
Yes.
It can usually be found at 7110 Dodge Street, although you do move around and you have some different events. But what I love, one of the many things I love about you, Shava,
Yes.
is you do an excellent job on Instagram especially, but also Facebook, of updating every single week. Tuesday through Saturday, we're going to be open. Here's where we're going to be parked every single day.
Thank
Here are our
you.
specials. So many food truck operators are not consistent with that. And I'm like, I want to find you. I want to give you my money, and you won't tell me where you
Where
are.
you're at.
And
Yes.
Shava, you're just like, here's exactly where I am.
Thank
Come
you.
to me and get the delicious food. So
Thank you.
thank you for that.
Sure.
So you talked about, how this was a real struggle for you. You didn't have your people, you didn't have your food, you didn't have the water, and so many people like you who are in a similar circumstance at Kearney, they jetted out of it. They went to Florida. They went to somewhere that was more familiar.
Yes.
What made you stick it out here in Nebraska?
Well, for me, I grew up in Jamaica, and my friend would say that I'm country. So I grew up in one of the more remote areas in Jamaica. So most of my friends who are Jamaicans that I know here, they grew up in like Kingston, in the city areas. Whereas I grew up in a very small, humble, remote location. I grew up in the mountains, a place called Bird Mountain, and it's usually really far out. Where I live, there's only like 3 houses there, and we're like separated by mountains. So I can stay from my little mountain peak and see my neighbor that's all the way across over there. So me and my sisters, we kind of grew up very quiet. The air is very cool in the mornings, not a lot of people in the mountains. So growing up, I kind of got used to not having 2 people around me, living in the country, the earth, the grass, the trees. So coming to Kearney, it wasn't overwhelming for me. It was so small, it was so remote. And I just knew in my heart that had I gone to like a bigger state or a bigger city, it would just be too overwhelming. Just too many people, too much, combustion, just too much going on. I've never been used to that. I've always liked small cities, like everybody knows everybody kind of situation. So when all my friends were saying, aren't you leaving? They were just talking about all this great time they were having and all this stuff. It just sounded like way too much for me. And I needed a space where I could focus, where there wasn't too much going on, where I could actually accomplish what I needed to. And Kearney felt like that to me. It was the closest thing to home, even though it didn't have the beach, even though it didn't have all the things I'd like it to have, but it was small enough to where I still felt comfortable. So that's why I stuck around.
Now, you said you were missing your food, and that's kind of what sparked the interest in you, like to get into the culinary arts. Do you remember like what were like those early thoughts of, hey, I'm really missing this food. What if I made it? Like, should I go to culinary school? What should I do about this? Like, what was your mindset back then?
So I think what really fast tracked my train of thought, or made me actually decide, I am going to give up medical school and go into food. I think what did it for me was a little bit like during COVID, after my dad died. So my dad died, didn't tell you that, but around that time, he we had a conversation, me and him, and I kind of explained to him what was going on with school and how I felt, and how draining it was. And during those years, I would go home every single year, and still today I go home every year. But I remember just before he died, the last conversation we had, I went down to Jamaica and I was talking to him about school and, how I felt, and I didn't have any friends, and, the food, and I couldn't find anything that I needed. And I told him, I said, going to medical school, like undergrad was already so hard for me. And I feel like if I went on to pursue that, I didn't have the motivation and I was so drained. I knew I wouldn't be able to finish. At least I didn't have the passion for that anymore. And he told me this was the best wisdom that my dad could have left with me. And I think after he died, I think that's why I decided to run with it, because I felt like that was the last conversation we had. He said, I'm sending you to school and I know this is what you want, but don't ever feel pressured because I'm sending you to school that you have to finish. He said, if you want to truly be wealthy, the only way to do that is to have your own business. And for years, because I've never actually asked my parents if they wanted me to be a doctor or if they wanted me to. I just thought it was something I had to do. They were taking care of me, they were spending the money. I just felt obligated, like I had to do this. So him giving me that freedom, saying, no, it's okay. We've spent this money, we've sent you to school all these years. But if you do not want to, don't feel obligated that you have to become a doctor. If your passion lies in opening a business, then that's good, because then you will be wealthy. And then he says, who do you think owns the hospital? It's a businessman. Like all these things that you're worried about, most of them, they're owned by a businessman. My dad was a businessman because he owned his own business. So he made me feel comfortable at that time to do this. So I think that's where that stemmed from, was when we had that conversation. And then after he died, like I was grieving, me and my sisters, my mom. But then that little conversation just stuck around in my brain. And I said, I'm going to do this. Wherever my dad is, he's going to see me do this. And he's going to be proud of me.
That is incredible selflessness on your dad's part. Because, I mean, he's, like you said, helped finance your move, to another country. He's paying, I can't even imagine what medical school bills look like. I know that they're not cheap.
No.
But he said, you know what? I'm not worried about that investment. I'm worried about my daughter's health and happiness first.
Yes.
And I'm sure that was incredibly freeing for you to be, because I'm sure there was a ton of pressure on you that I've got to finish this. I've got to stick this thing that I don't even know if I like. I got to stick this out and make it work. Yes. And he was like, you know what? What makes you happy? Chase that.
Yes.
So, okay, so you decide, I think this culinary thing might be for me. What did you do next?
So the next thing I did, so I was living in Kearney at the time, and there wasn't really too much opportunity for me to grow there, but there was someone who mentioned that Lincoln was the capital, and there were things going on. Lincoln was booming. I could go there, get a job, because I didn't have that money. And then especially after so I have 8 sisters, by the way. I have a big family. Yes. So the move to come to Kearney, it wasn't just the fact that tuition was low, but with my dad having to at the time take care of all my other sisters, and the ones going to college and the ones coming are on their way to, I had to make an unselfish decision to go to a college where it was affordable for all of us, if that makes sense. So during that time, I said to myself, well, if I could go to Lincoln, I could find a really good job. If it's the capital, and there's lots of job opportunities, then I could find something that pays me really well, and I could save towards opening a restaurant. So that's exactly what I did. I, finished undergrad, graduated, went to Kearney, found a job as a DNA lab technician at Neogen. I'm not sure if you know Neogen, but it's like a DNA company. They do hair samples, follicles, all of that. So I had that experience. So I was able to get in a foot in there, and I did that for a while. But then, without having like a master's degree or a PhD degree in medicine, you get jobs, but very low end. They don't pay you enough. So the money that I was getting wasn't enough to get me where I needed to be fast enough. So while I was doing that, I was talking to some friends and I was like, this job is great, but if I don't continue up in medicine, I'm never going to get the pay that I want. And then one day somebody says to me, Shavi, there's a job where you do not have a degree. You don't need a degree and you can make like 20 something dollars an hour. I was like, no, you don't have a degree and can make 20 something. There is no job. That's unheard of. And they're like, yeah, if you go into law enforcement or if you go into corrections, you can make, but I have never done anything law enforcement. So I was just like, what? But then I needed the money. So I actually did. I signed up for corrections, and that's what I did in Lincoln. I went to Lincoln Correctional Center, and I did that for a few years. And that's what transitioned me to Omaha, because Omaha also had a correctional facility, but they paid more. So just before I left to go into my restaurant, I was making $35 an hour. So that is how much I was getting paid. And then don't even speak about overtime, because if you're making $35 an hour and then you're doing overtime, which is time and a half, then you can essentially save to get to where you need to be. So that's what I was doing right before I opened up my food truck. I was in corrections and I was making decent amount to where I could start now saving for what I wanted to do. Wanted to open a restaurant, but that also was taking too long. So a few of my friends, including my husband, said, why don't you just open a food truck? That requires less money. It's faster. You don't need as many staff. You don't need the amount of licenses that you would need to open a restaurant. And then I looked into it, saw that it was super easy to do. And then with the amount of money that I had, with the resources that I had, it was very doable. So that's what I did.
Shava, you are one of the most fascinating people I've met in a long time. You came from Jamaica to medical school in Kearney to being a corrections officer in Lincoln to opening a Jamaican food truck in Omaha.
Yes.
That is like an amazing story.
Thank you.
And I hope the most exciting chapter is being written right now.
Yes.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. Let's introduce some Jamaican food before we get back into the story. Okay. Obviously, jerk chicken. That's what everyone probably knows best. It's most closely associated with Jamaican cuisine. What is it about that dish that you feel like makes it kind of the bedrock of your food?
So I feel like jerk chicken, because of the process of how it's made and the fact that it is super healthy, is why it has become so popular. Because one of the most frequently asked questions I get when somebody would walk up to my truck is gluten. That seems to be a big issue for a lot of people. They don't really necessarily want the gluten in their meat or in their food. So when they come up, they'll ask me, is it breaded? Is there any form of gluten that you use in it? Or somebody has asked me if there is nuts in it. Like several of these, breaded or the process of making meat, but we don't do that. Our chicken is completely organic. The only thing that goes on or into our rub or our marinade is herbs and spices. Now, what makes the chicken itself so tender, so flavorful, is the 24 to 48 hours marinade process. So, jerk chicken, for a lot of people who aren't aware of what it is, you definitely have to put that rub or marinade on it, and it has to sit in it overnight. And then once you put it on that grill or in that smoker, then all those flavors come out. And then don't forget the wood that you use. Should we tell them?
That's up to you. I'm not asking you to spill your secrets, but if you want to share, like we talked about, it's not like you have a lot of competition up here. It's up to you.
Yeah, so basically, If you were to ever look up the process of jerking, then you will see that the woods that you use are also very essential. Just like here in America, when somebody goes to smoke and they'll use like hickory wood or apple wood, same thing for jerk. There is a very special wood that we as Jamaicans use, which is what gives it the flavor that it it has, you know. So I think that's what set jerk chicken apart. Is one, it's not breaded, it's organic, it uses so many herbs and spices that I think people are just not used to. You know, when I initially started, I thought I wasn't going to make my money back. And the reason why is because of how many ingredients I had to put in my marinade. And then I thought, man, and then I'm only selling one plate for $14. And my mom thought that was crazy. Why would you buy all these herbs and spices, put them in it, and then sell it for only $14? See, my thing was I'm thinking of the demographic. Like I understand that, you know, you as a small business or growing business, you don't want to go on the low end. But I was thinking from it from a point of view for like me, a college student. Because at the time, if somebody had a truck and I was going to college, I can't afford a lot of stuff as a college student. So I wanted my price to be like at a good place to where anybody could afford it. Even somebody who was going to school, somebody didn't have too much money, they could still afford what I was selling. So I tried to make it a reasonable price that we somebody could still afford that.
And if anyone were on the other side of that and they were like $14 for a plate, that sounds like a lot. No.
No.
It comes with two sides, and I don't know how much chicken. I haven't actually weighed it, how much chicken you put in there. I'd guess it's at least 3/4 of a pound,
It's
if
heavy.
not more.
Yes.
Yeah.
We put so jerk chicken it's served chopped up. For anybody who's never ordered one or seen what a jerk chicken plate, because even when you go to Jamaica, they after they finish grilling it, they chop it up, put it in a foil paper, and then you can put your jerk sauce over that. But when we here in America, when we plate it, just like you said, it comes with the two side. But everybody who has always got it has always said it's heavy because we chop up at least 4 or 5 pieces of chicken. So that's what makes the plate enough itself. Like I have never had one person get a plate and didn't say they weren't super full after ordering that plate. So yes.
If you eat that whole plate and you are super full, you're either like Paul Bunyan or you just ran a marathon or something, because more power to you. You eat a lot of food if that's the case.
Yes.
How I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but as you're coming up with your recipes and your dishes for the food truck, I know it was important for you to stay authentic to the food that you grew up eating. But also, you've acknowledged that food is unfamiliar
Yes.
to a lot of people up here. So you want to meet people where they're at in Omaha.
Yes.
How did you balance staying authentic versus giving people something that's familiar to them?
Yes. So one of the things, and we've had, a lot of customers that we've had conversations with about it. One of the biggest things that I would say, and probably the only thing that we've really changed with our jerk is the bone. Because initially when we started, we would do the boned in chicken, and that is traditional to Jamaica. Jerk chicken is always done with the bone in. The issue with that we came across when we started was because we chop it up. Had we not chopped it up, then I think, the bone wouldn't even be that big of an issue. But because we chop it up, now there are little pieces of bones everywhere on the plate. So, for people who weren't familiar with that, every bite they had, they would come across a bone, and I think they just weren't used to that. So what we've had to do, even though it's a little bit more expensive, buy the boneless meats, the boneless thighs, the boneless breast, it's a little bit more pricey. But what we've done is kept the flavors authentic. So at first I was nervous about removing or not having any bone in there because I thought it would ruin the flavor. But then we tried it out the first time, still, did the same process, marinated, put it in the grill, smoke it, all of that. We tasted and we're like, oh my goodness.
It works.
It works. Even for me, that was my first time having jerk chicken without bone because I have never had jerk chicken without bone. So I'm just like, how is this? Because I always thought the bone had to be in there to give it that flavor. And I discovered it really doesn't have to. Without the bone, it's delicious, So I think that's the only thing we've essentially changed, just to make sure that with it being the environment that we're in and people just not being used to that, I didn't want to keep forcing it up on people and they're just not used to having to bite and having to remove that bone, you know. So that's what we did. And like I said, after we removed the bone, we realized we didn't have to do anything else. We didn't have to mess with the flavor. We didn't have to mess with anything else because even though the chicken has a little spice to it, the market is able to handle it. Because what we're finding, people are saying that even though it's spicy, there's so much flavor behind it that they can handle it. So that makes me really happy to hear. And that was one of my biggest fear with, people in Omaha not being used to spice. I was like, oh my goodness, how are we gonna do this? Because we're used to the spice. But it's so much flavor that the spice doesn't even matter anymore. And then you've been to my truck, so we have the mild sauce and the spicy sauce. So if there are Jamaicans or people who, are from my country who they're like, this is not enough for me, I need that spice, then I have the jerk sauce that they can add on top that'll give them the extra kick that they need.
And I think it's very important to establish the difference between spicy and spiced. Like, yes, your food has some heat to it, but it's not super, super hot. It's more just, there's a lot of spices, like you said, a lot of flavor just packed into every one of those dishes. So you'll get a little bit of heat and you're supposed to.
Yes.
But it's not going to blow your palate out or anything like that.
No. Because without that flavor, and that's the one thing I could not remove even if I wanted to, because then it wouldn't be jerk chicken anymore. Even if I wanted to move the spice and be like, okay, there's no spice, then really and truly that wouldn't be jerk chicken. Jerk chicken has to have a little kick. So like you said, the flavor profile combined with that little heat just provides a right balance. That way you don't feel like you're dying inside, So I'm happy that you've established or you've explained exactly what that is. So yes.
Now, I've loved every plate, everything that I've had from your truck so far, but the revelation for me has been festival. That's something that I'd seen on TV, on Food Network. People had made it in competitions, and I was kind of like, I don't totally know what that is. Is it a fritter, but it's sweet? And then I tried it, and I was just like, I would eat like a barrel of these. It's so good. So for someone who hasn't had festival yet, what is it, and what makes it like such an important part of Jamaican culture?
So basically, growing up, when I would go to any jerk spot or any jerk joint with my family, you cannot get a foil paper or one of those little plates of jerk chicken without a side of festival. That's just how we have jerk chicken. It's just the way we do it. Now, I think the reason why originally Jamaicans did the jerk chicken or the jerk pork with the festival was because of that heat. So what they wanted to do was combine a little sweet so that when the chicken got too spicy or the pork got too spicy, you had a little sweet bite to help take away all that heat. So that, I think, was the intention behind festivals. So festivals are little fried sweet treats. And the thing of it, you would think it would just be like a fried sugary dough or flour, but no, it also has a very flavorful taste behind it. Now, several people have come up to my truck asking what's in there, because when you taste it, obviously it's a dead giveaway. There's cornmeal in it. Like, there's some type of, which is why I've had people describe it as cornbread. There's somebody said it's like fried cornbread because they can taste that corn profile in there. So yes, that's in there. Obviously there's flour in there. Obviously there's sugar because you taste that little sweet. But there is one other ingredient that is in there that is true to Jamaica, and that the other thing that we put in there, it comes straight from Jamaica. You cannot find it anywhere else. Now, you may be able to ship it, but I'd have to tell you what it is for you to be able to do so. But that fourth item that I put in the festival is what makes festival. Because if you were to go home and just did some cornmeal, some flour, and some sugar, you wouldn't get the taste. It would taste sweet and it would taste like corn, but it would not taste like festival.
Oh, I want to know so bad now, but I'm not gonna make you spill your secrets on a podcast. Maybe, see, this just gives me another reason to come back, so I can keep trying the
Yes.
festival and be like,
What is that?
what's the fourth ingredient? I need to figure that out. Yeah, and I mean, you can eat these on the spot. You can go. I've gone home and air fried them a couple times, and they come out super good,
Yes.
delicious.
Thank
One
you.
one other dish I want to make sure I ask you about, and that's the beef patties. You also offer chicken patties and cheese patties. I think the beef patties are probably the most well known. I would assume the most popular.
Yes.
What is the cultural significance of those in Jamaican culture?
So for the beef patties, those are our quick bites. So like even for me, like we school is done. This is me. I'm in school back home, high school. Me and my friends' school is over, and we're going home, or we're just shopping around shopping centers, and we want a quick bite. That is our Jamaican quick bites. That's the fastest thing you could have to eat, or on a budget. Initially, when we put patties out there, Americans are tempted to think patties, like the little burger patties. But in Jamaica, you go there and you say to a Jamaican that you wanted a Jamaican patty. You are not going to get the little burgers. What you are going to get is a little pocket, like it's a little crust. It looks like an empanada, much bigger, but it has this really thin crust, and it's a pocket, and you like stuff meat, chicken or beef inside it, close it up, and you bake it. The reason why I think Jamaican patties are so famous is because of that texture, that flavor. And then, that little pocket of goodness is like all the similar herbs and spices that you put in the jerk chicken, all those are also inside that little pocket. So say for example, one day you feel for, some jerk chicken, but you're just like, I don't want a whole meal, but I still want that flavor profile. That's what is inside that little pocket. You still have that flavor profile within the beef, within the chicken, but it's inside one little bite.
And I want to clarify, you are making all of these yourself. This is not something that you're buying mass produced. You are making the dough.
Yes.
You are seasoning that beef or that chicken.
Yes.
And holy cow, are
Yes.
they so delicious. Like I could easily have 3 or 4 of those and just call it a great meal.
Yes,
So-
thank you. Yes, I've sold several to a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I need another one. That didn't even brush, that didn't do anything." It's just like I know it's just a quick little bite, but it's so tasty. You just keep coming back for more, and I think that was my experience in Jamaica. I would order a patty, but I knew I had to order like 3 or 4 because it just wasn't gonna do enough. And then for me, as my business grows, I would like to make it so that I can make enough to where one, I can make it either cheaper or I can offer more, because I do understand that they're like, oh, they go so fast. It's just where I am at this moment. Just like you said, I am making them myself. I would love to put out a big batch in one day where I can do this. But when you make something yourself, it's so hard to put out like a whole bunch. So what I can offer is just what I make each day, and they never stay. They go all you're done in one day. So every single morning I'm having to remake them. So yes, I'm excited that Omaha has fallen in love with Jamaican patties, jerk chicken, jerk pork, because I really did think that, this was just a Jamaican thing and only my people were going to love my food. But I could see just the look in people's eyes when they eat it, and just, how much it's like a flavor they've never had. And they're like, oh my God, where have I been? I've been missing this taste. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy that Omaha people have embraced this type of cooking. And for those who haven't, this is the best part.
Oh, here we go.
This is the best part for me and my mom. It's like, for those who've never been to Jamaica, I've had so many of my customers now saying that they are going to go. And it's just
Because they tried your food?
yes. Yes.
Shava, that's incredible.
Yes, that makes me so happy, because this is what I try to explain, and sometimes you can't explain. You just have to let people taste it for themselves. Because when I would explain in college to my friends, hey, I'm missing my food, like, you could see the sadness in me, like, something is missing. there's no way to tell a person unless they have it for themselves. And when they taste it, they're like, oh my God, if your food tastes like this, I can just imagine your culture. You know what I mean? And that is it, because you cook how you feel. And Jamaicans, we cook with so much love. And because our life in Jamaica is so much simpler than the business of America, just I feel like here's just work, 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 bills, you know. But anybody who's ever gone to Jamaica is such a simpler, much simple lifestyle, you know. And I think because Jamaicans have this such, you know, simple lifestyle, they put all their time into cooking, they put all their time into family. So whenever I was in the kitchen growing up with my mom, that's all I saw. You know, it was just a big family, how we came together. And that's where I learned how to cook, because I saw it every day, you know, whether it was grilling outside. I even know how to make a wood fire. You know, I know how to start a fire from scratch. Like a lot of people, you know, they have the electric stove, all that stuff. You wouldn't know how to do that. But that's where I got all my experience from. And there's something so much different about that's a food that's cooked over open flame versus on an electric stove. And like a person might say, oh, Shava, you're like, but you try a smoked meat or meat that's been cooked over just pure wood fire versus something that's been electric, then you'll see the difference. It's worlds apart. But yes.
Okay, I definitely am understanding where this passion comes from, and it's amazing to see how closely like food is related to. It's just a part of your core.
It is.
Because it was a part of family. It was a part of growing up and everything. So, like you said, a lot of your family was in the restaurant business. Or
Yes.
they were chefs. They know how hard the life is.
Oh, yes.
They know the long hours. They know the razor thin margins. They know that you don't get to spend as much time with family.
Yes.
So when you tell them before you start the truck or anything, you're having these ideas.
Yes.
You've got a good paying job.
Yes.
You're set up nice here, and you start having these ideas of opening a restaurant, and then that translates to a food truck. What was their response? Were they excited for you, or are they like, you're crazy, do not do that?
Yes, I got a lot of that. I had so many people telling me not to quit my job because I think what most of my family members wanted me to do when I explained to them what I was getting ready to do, they wanted me to just, you know, because corrections pay really well. The benefits are so good. You know, you have health care, vision care, all of that. Really good benefits. And you know, you have a pension, retirement, all that good stuff. And they're saying just do the truck part-time was what I was getting, you know, because they know, like, you know, everybody talks about it. Restaurants may fail. You know, it's one of the fastest business to fail if you're not sure what you're doing or what you're getting into. And like I said, Jamaican food isn't popular here. So I already knew in the back of my mind that, hey, I could start it and it could fail. So I got a lot of, no, just keep corrections, you know, work that for a year, then do your truck on the weekends or part-time. That way you still have income coming in. But you know what I did? I quit my job before I started my food truck. I did because I don't know, it was just this calling and I felt it. I just knew that, and then I'm a Christian. So I had, you know, I felt empowered by the Lord. I just knew that He was there with me and He was going to guide me through this whole process. So I knew that all I had to do was just like, if I had faith, and then I remember the words of my dad, you know, saying that, you know, if this is what you want, he gave me that freedom to go out and do this. I'm just like, why am I holding back? What do I have to hold on for? This is what I want to do. And I feel like if you put your whole heart into something, if you don't have one foot in here and one foot in here, you just put all your energy into something that you really want to do, I feel like you can do well, and I feel like you'll be successful. So that's what I did. Everybody thought I was crazy, even at work. They're like, you're quitting? Like, you haven't even started, you're quitting? I'm just like, yes, I am gonna do this. And that's what I did. I quit my job in April and I started my food truck in April. At first, it was a little slow because, just like I said, a lot of people didn't know what it was. You know, they saw the Jerk Makin Shack. They wondered. Somebody thought it was a prank. This girl came to my truck. Yes, she did. She came to my truck and she said, when I first saw this, I thought this was a prank truck. I was just like, why did you think that? She's like, because of the name, Jerk Makin Shack. You know, like how people say jerk making me crazy, or like, some joke that people would say. She thought that's what it was. So I think a lot of people shied away from it because they weren't sure what was going on or what it was or what is jerk. But I am happy today because ever since, like, people have been talking about the food, people who know about the food explain what it is. I've had people come up to me and ask me, and I've been able to explain. So that, I think, has been helping my business to really grow. And just like you said, anybody who's in the restaurant business know that you have to shop, you have to prep. There's a lot of accounting going on behind scenes. There's a lot of cleaning going on behind scenes. There's a lot of paperwork going on behind scenes. So if I wanted my business to thrive, I couldn't keep a job. There is no way. My mom has kept hers, which I encouraged her to do because in the winter months we're going to be closed and it would be nice for her to keep going. So, but for me, I just wanted to put everything, my whole heart and soul into this because I know this is what I want. And this is something that I can offer to Omaha that is not here or should I say it's not popular here as yet. So I just wanted to, and with my truck I can move around, so that makes it even better. So if there's a location that I feel is not there, I can just drive there and be like, here it is.
I'm here.
Yes.
Come get some beef patties. Let's go.
Yes. And I just love the look on people's face who's never had it, who come up to my truck and say, my first time. And then I kind of watch them take that first bite and watch them light up. It is the joy of my life right now because it's just, that uncertainty. You're buying something, you're just like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. And then I'm just going to sit in the window and watch because I know they're going to have that moment where they're going to be like, oh my God, what is this? And I've had that. I've had people sit in their cars, eat it, and turn around and come right back and buy another one or buy another plate.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you've had this dream. You've been wanting to offer your food to people. Your first day open was Monday, April 20th. That was when this dream, it's been in your head for a while. It's finally launched. When I bring that day up, what memory pops to the front of your mind?
I feel overwhelmed. I felt nervous. I felt embarrassment. I also felt joy. I felt proud. Now, for the words like nervous, embarrassed, a person would be like, why? But I think for me, the reason why those also pop out in my head is because this is something I have never done. And I didn't know how I was going to be received. So, parking my truck up there on, 72nd and Dodge and just sitting there, I'm just like, what if somebody comes to my truck that knows me? Even I work in corrections, what if somebody comes, the officer come and they eat the food and it's not good and they're like, oh, this sucks. Just, you never know, like, the response or the feedback you're going to get, it's something completely new. And then not only that, I feel like nervous because what if I park there all day and nobody comes, So I think that was my biggest thing because I put all this money into the truck because my truck wasn't purchased as a food truck. It was purchased as an empty truck and I made it from scratch. So I purchased this truck last year, April, and I have been working on it from April until April. So it took me 1 full year for my truck to be completed. So I put in the electricity, the plumbing, all the appliances, everything that's in there. And then on top of that, I went out and I purchased all this food. So I'm wondering, worried, thinking, oh my God, sick to my stomach. What if I park my truck and nobody comes? Nobody knows what this food is. Nobody wants to try this food, So I think I was scared to death, but also very excited because then again, what if they do come? What if they try it? What if they like it? So I think those were the emotions, that was kind of going on in my head that day. Yeah, that's what I remembered.
So you mentioned those first couple weeks a little slow as people, with
Yes.
any new food truck
Yes.
or any new business, there's usually going to be a period where people are finding out about it. And like you said, you know, Jamaican food is something not a lot of Omahans are familiar with, so
Yes.
maybe they're not flocking immediately. At what point, because you're busy now,
Yes.
you're selling out frequently.
Yes.
I've come to the last time I came to the truck, there was a line waiting.
Yes. Yes.
At what point did you start to see that turn where Omaha was like, oh, this is open.
Yes.
It's not something fake online like that one woman thought. And people are loving this.
Yes.
What was the turning point, do you think?
So I think our turning point would have probably been our third week in. So our third week in, I remember we were there, just going the same flow as usual, you know, not too slow, not too fast, just a normal pace. And then I remembered, I don't know, I can't remember his name because I never really should have gotten his name. But I remember there was this one guy, he came out and reviewed my truck. Did you ever see him? He came, I think, in my third week, and he was the first person to put a review because
Okay.
I think that was one of my biggest fear because I had family members tell me about this. People who were on social media would always say you don't want a bad review. You know what I mean? So I think for me, every time a food would go out, I was just like, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? And social media is this place where everybody put everything out. They take pictures of your food, so you're having to make sure presentation is good. You're having to make sure taste is good. It's so many things that's going on in your head, and you're just like, what if somebody tastes and they don't like it, and then they post that they don't like it, and it's just so much to worry about. But I remember one day, we got there 11 o'clock. I started off a little slow, and this guy, he comes out, and I think the caption on his video was heavy. So I think I saw it, and I didn't know what it was going to be. I clicked play, and he was saying almost the same thing you were saying, but whatever his name was, it was just like a blessing in disguise. He wasn't a very big food influencer as yet because I think we hit our first 1,000 view before he did, but he's now there. But I remember he came and he was just describing the food, and I'm not sure if he's ever had it, but he was just saying like it's a lot of food, how flavorful it was, and in each bite he was just talking about it. And I think that was the very first time Omaha people who has never been to my truck saw him, saw the food, and was like, let's go try it. So in that third week was the first time we got like a little rush. And then we kind of got those customers. We kind of kept getting those same customers, and then it was going well. And then I was like, okay, I can handle this space. But then you came, and I remember the day when you came. We would have been like maybe a month in when you came. So he was our third week, and then you would have been our maybe month or something like that in, but we didn't know you. Same thing with him. We didn't know you as well. We just know you came up to the food truck. You were trying it. And we're just like, okay. And we were having a conversation, about Jamaica and your wife and your honeymoon. And I was just like, oh my God, Mom. After you left, we're like, somebody who's been to Jamaica again. Just these conversations that we would have. So every time we get somebody who's been to Jamaica, we get so excited, And then we saw your post, and it was beautiful. Just the way how you were able to put it on paper. We couldn't have said it any better ourselves. I think this was something that we've always wanted to say, but as a owner, I can't say it because when it comes from me, maybe people may see it as bragging, or two, maybe they think I'm the owner, so I'm just gonna put up my food. But coming from someone else, they know it's true because it's not me putting my food out there. And the thing I love about you, you don't take I don't give you my food free for you to review it or anything like that.
I don't want free food.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
insist on paying. Yes.
So that was one of the best parts about, I think, that made your review so pure, so real, just bare for everyone to see, is because I didn't know you and you didn't take a bribe or you didn't want, free food. You just came, you didn't even introduce yourself, told us who you were. It was just a pure, authentic, true, relationship. They bought the food, ate it, and you liked it. And then
I loved it.
and I think that's where our business just took off. Like, we did not have hands to sell the food that we were offering, it was just like every single day we knew we had to like start from scratch every morning because we're going to be sold out of everything. So I feel like that's when, like, about a month in is when we started becoming extremely busy. And I think initially we used to arrive on location like somewhat late. Because it wasn't necessarily that we wanted to be, it was just that we felt like maybe we're not going to sell enough today, so what's the point of hurrying up and getting there? But I think ever since sometime before we even get on location, people are calling us, are you going to be there today? What time are you going to be there today? So now we've make it a priority to try to be early every single day because we know somebody's coming up for breakfast or lunch, or so we're trying each day, even though we have our hands full, trying to be on location at the right time, trying to make sure that we have everything, enough oxtail, enough jerk chicken, enough jerk pork, enough patties. So I guess that's one of the biggest thing I want to say is thank you for that. And I know for you, you said it's not a big thing, but for us, like, that really helped from one Omaha to another, help them to understand what our food was about. So that really helped. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. You basically just summed up my existence like in that answer. I don't know why, but God has blessed me with this platform. For some reason, people care about what I have to say about restaurants, and
Yes.
I know that there are so many wonderful creators and chefs out there like you
Yes.
who have amazing food, and if people just knew about it,
If you just knew. Yes.
or if they just saw pictures of it, they wouldn't go to Chipotle or Domino's or any of the other chains that have their time and place, but they would come and try something new.
Yes.
And then they would fall in love with it.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that your food is getting the opportunity to shine because it deserves it.
Thank you.
Now, this last question I have for you is going to seem kind of crazy because, like we talked about, you just opened in April. So your truck has been, we're recording this on July 6th. We're talking like 2-3 months old.
Once, yes.
When you look into the future and you think about what Jerk Makin Shack could be or what you want it to be, what do you see in the future?
So my goal right now, because I'm still not there yet, the conversation that I had between me and my father was a restaurant. And that's what he sees for me. That's what we want for my family. In Jamaica, we're business owners. That's what I grew up seeing. Nearly any of my uncles or aunts work for anyone. Almost all of them. There might be one or two that does, but nearly all of them, and that's what I grew up seeing, was business owners. So coming here, wanting to be a doctor, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I felt like when I was going into it, it just didn't feel right. I've always known that owning a business is something I wanted to do, but when you're in a country that's not your own and you don't grow up there, it makes you a little bit fearful. If I was in Jamaica, oh man, I would be out there getting it done, but when you're just speaking, in general, if you were to also leave America and go study in Jamaica, you would see what I'm saying. Like, it makes you a little bit more nervous when it's not your country, or for any other student who's study abroad, whether you're in Japan, Brazil, wherever you went to study, it makes owning a business just a little bit more complicated. So for me now, my biggest goal and where I want to be is in a restaurant. A brick and mortar would just solidify that, I did what I was supposed to do. I made my dad proud. And even my mom, having her alive is one of the, I don't know, it's so momentous for me. Just being in business with her, being able to be in another country, knowing that my mom lives here with me. Not many people have that opportunity, So I am just like ecstatic right now, just over the moon. If I were doing it with anybody else, I don't know if I'd be this happy. But being in business with my mom, and I know she has my back, there are days when, to be honest, either we were so busy or, maybe one person made a comment online that was not the best comment. And, I'm going home and I'm just, frustrated because somebody had something negative to say or whatever the situation may be. But can I tell you, when you have a parent that you're in business with, they will let you know, stop that. You know, like even when you want to be down in the dumps, you know, when you have a mom or a dad that has your back, they will remind you of why you're doing this and why you cannot let, you know, people put you down or stop you. So I am just really happy that, you know, I have the opportunity to work with my mom, and knowing that we're not done yet. You know, we just need to move into this brick and mortar. I was talking to her, just even though she couldn't be here today, I was talking to her, and our biggest goal, if you go to Jamaica, this is what you see. You see an outside area where they're grilling, you know, where they're jerking that chicken, they're jerking that pork. So in my head, that's the vision I have. I want a place where people can come, they can sit down outside. They can see the chicken there. It's jerking, it's grilling. They can smell that smoke. It's going up in the air. I just want that experience for my customers because I had it. But like I said, explaining to somebody and them coming there, smelling it, seeing it for themselves, I can't buy that. You can't get, you just have to experience that for yourself. So I know Omaha don't have that yet. They've never experienced that, especially for ones who've never gone to Jamaica. They don't have that yet. They don't experience it. So if they think my food truck is anything, I'm just like, wait until you experience a patio or like an outside experience with a grill, and you can just sit there and just take in all that flavor, and then you can have your food right there. That's what I want. I want a brick and mortar, but I want an outside place for my customers to come and sit and just watch the process of us jerking that meat, jerking that pork. That's what I want.
That sounds absolutely magical.
Yes.
And I want that for you too.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's something that's difficult, so maybe it'll be
Yes.
down the line.
Down
But
the line,
you're doing a
yes.
great job right now. I want to affirm you
Yes.
on something that you just said. You said, my dad will be proud of me once I get a brick and mortar. Your dad is proud of you right now,
Well,
Shava.
thank you.
Because you
Thank
are doing
you.
something incredible. You are introducing so many Omahans to not only this cuisine, but this culture
Yes.
that we otherwise wouldn't. I mean, you're getting people who are so excited about the food that they want to go to the country. Like, you should serve as like an honorary member on the Jamaica Travel Board or
Like an
something like that.
ambassador or something.
Yes, exactly. So, Omahans, if you've been to Jamaica and you're chasing these dishes and these flavors, go visit this food truck. But
Yes.
even if you know nothing about Jamaican food, you've never had jerk chicken, you've never thought about trying it, go to this truck, Jerk
Yes.
Makin Shack, and try it.
Thank you.
I have 0% doubt that you will want to come back and try more.
Yes.
Shava, I know that this was a long, difficult road that got you to this point, and I know that it's still a lot of long, difficult days.
Yes.
A lot of challenges. I thank you so much for your hard work and your perseverance through it, because you have made Omaha a better place
Thank you.
with this truck.
Thank you. Yes.
And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing just a fraction of your story. I'm sure if we had more time, we could really get into it and have a great time.
Yes.
But there might have to be a return episode. We'll see. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Sure. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Yes.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.